Thank you everyone for joining. So I'm going to be presenting this platform that I've been building, MatrixAI. It's a platform for running matrix games. So let's start off with what are matrix games? Matrix games are analytical exercises that are used primarily by the military and government to explore complex scenarios and test decision making. Uh, I think also they are very ripe for use in the private sector for essentially exploring different scenarios. And especially when you have multiple different actors that might be interacting in strategic ways and lead to unexpected circumstances. So the way they work is that you normally have human beings, each of which role plays as a certain actor in the scenario. So one might pretend to be the president of the United States and another the president of Russia, and so on and so forth. And each one, they go in turn and can take actions, which, as opposed to some other games that have maybe a more formal structure that you can move a piece from this place to that place or something, here it's very free form. So it really invites imagination that you can take any action that you want. And then there are judges that judge whether that's makes sense given the conditions of play and so on, and they make an assessment of what the probability of success of this action is. And maybe there's usually the other players judge, and then you take the median of that and then evaluate to see if the action succeeded. And then you move on to the next player. Um, so I think because of the fact that these is usually done mostly through discussion, through talking, it seems like something that's ripe for seeing how well LLMs can do this. And I think this is important because matrix games can be difficult in the sense that they were actually designed to be relatively easy compared to some other war games, but you still need usually a facilitator that knows what they're doing to facilitate it well. It also works a lot better if the people participating are experts at who they're role playing as and the subject matter in general. And so being able to use AIs to do these different roles, to do the facilitation, to play as the players is very helpful. It's also helpful in terms of being able to run a lot more of them, as opposed to if you're running with humans, it can take hours. So you might only be able to play a game or two. Here with AI, you could explore many, many different circumstances and try to see different black swan type events, or just explore different possible futures and see what kind of actions could lead to different outcomes and work better in different scenarios. So what am I looking to do? What are my success metrics? So I want to transform from manual expert dependent game into this AI augmented analysis to make it 100% autonomous, to be able to scale this, right? So that we could run potentially a bunch in parallel and democratize it, that instead of needing to know how to facilitate these and all the rules, anyone can just go online and do this. So as I mentioned, these are usually used in policy circles and in the military, but I think also this is a very interesting tool that could be deployed in the private sector and in academic research. And yeah, I think I've already kind of discussed the user benefits. Is essentially it's doing the facilitator role for you. Right now, the games themselves are fully autonomous, but I'm also envisioning in the future that you could play as one of the actors, so that you could kind of try out different actions and see how they are affected by the reactions of the other players. You have this virtual laboratory, like I was saying, you get to run a bunch of games and see what happens. And in the future, I'm hoping to be able to then have a RAG system and different analytical tools that could see all the games that you've played, and you could query it. So you could try to kind of dig more into these details across all these simulations. Like, hey, how often did this event happen, or what are some unexpected consequences that occurred in some of the games that I wouldn't have thought of, and different things like that users might want to use. So let me show the demo. So this is the platform, and we have some scenarios here, some that are more geopolitical, and then one that's uh, more economic in nature. And if we enter one of these, then we see we have the setup here, and we have a way to start the simulation. We click start, then we'll see it's going through these different phases that I'll show in a diagram in a moment. And we see here, this maybe is not super clear. I might change the word to make it clearer. Essentially, this means that the AI tried to do something that would be too ambitious to do in the amount of time that's one turn. So another AI breaks that up and tells it, all right, just do the first part. And so this is the action that OpenAI decided to do. So they chose to do some actions, and then it was evaluated whether they succeeded or whether they failed. And then another AI then wrote a narrative based on the action that they tried to do and whether it succeeded or failed. And here I have one that's completed, and we can see here what it the kind of ending, the feedback at the end of the game. We have the simulation history of all the actions of all the different players across all the turns. Here, this doesn't work at the moment, but I'm hoping to be able to, as I was saying, use the RAG to kind of communicate across different simulations if we run a bunch at once. I'm thinking also for the potential that they could say, I don't really, this scenario seems unrealistic in this manner. Can we change the scenario? And then behind the scenes, the AI would change the parameters of the game and run it again and stuff like that. We also have the ability to create our own. It's not ready yet, but essentially here we'd either be able to manually input everything or have an AI that you would say, I want to make something about the scenario about the recent conflict between India and Pakistan. I was thinking that because I actually already designed this. It's just not plugged in here. And that was when there was a conflict flaring up there. And so I made it so it can search the internet. You know, the AI didn't know anything about this conflict. It was trained way before it, or at least the recent part of the conflict. So it went to the internet, found it, and wrote a scenario based on that. So back to the presentation. So this is essentially what's going on behind the scenes. It establishes the turn order, simple. The first player chooses what action it wants to do. It's essentially given a prompt where it's saying, okay, you are role playing as OpenAI. Here is the situation that you're in. Here are the other players in the game. Now choose an action, and it gives it some information about Matrix games, so it kind of knows what types of actions it should be, like how to play essentially. And it chooses an action. Then in adjudication, critics look at it and say, why could this fail? And then they take also here the player gave kind of the pros of why it would succeed. And then here, so they gave the cons of why it might fail. And then they evaluate here the pros, here the cons. Let's try to think of a probability. And you have multiple at once so that you have this wisdom of the crowd averaging across multiple LLMs. They decide a probability of success, evaluate it if it succeeds or fails. And then you have the scenario update is where another AI then comes in and takes the action, takes kind of what's gone on so far, takes whether it succeeded or failed, and builds in a narrative to continue the game. We see if the game's over. If not, we go to the next player and continue. Yeah, so the future roadmap, I want to add features so that players or users, sorry, can create their own scenarios, as I mentioned. I also want to add the ability to run hybrid games. So you could play as one with the actors or maybe even online so that you and some other human are playing as two of the actors or three or whoever, whatever, and that the rest are played by AI. Parallel simulations, as I already mentioned as well, and tools for analysis, as I already mentioned as well, so that you can kind of dive deeply into, let's say you run 100 of these, right? And you use AI and other tools to kind of analyze the results. And since this is already running, you can go and check it out if you're interested. And here's the website and a QR code. So thank you very much.